All right, let's give Hump Day's daily puzzle on chess.com a shot. This one's called Provocative Bishop, Loose Underpinning. It's black to move. Give the video a pause and try it yourself if you feel like it. Provocative Bishop. I mean, this bishop is hanging off the bat. Doesn't really look like I have any checks, I don't think. The king looks pretty safe. So I'm feeling like this one is about other pieces, probably. None of my pieces look to be in too much trouble. My bishop is not very well protected. If I just take this... okay, so the pawn is pinned here. So now I'm thinking maybe I attack the queen somehow. Also thinking about maybe trying to take that. But like if I were to attack the queen and the queen had to move off this diagonal, I also like it if I move my bishop. So if I move my bishop, my queen protects my rook, and then this pawn isn't really pinned anymore. And if I could somehow simultaneously attack the queen, I'm really looking at this square. Even though this pawn is here, is there some way that I can make that work? I don't really see why that would work. If my queen gets over here, I'm all of a sudden threatening stuff, I feel like. So, like maybe some weird stuff like this seems like a lot. What other moves do I have here? Oh, this maybe. That's another way that I could cut off the queen. Yeah, I can probably just sacrifice this pawn. Would that work? So there are 3 different pieces that could take the pawn, which is a little scary. So like if I go here and knight takes, then my knight's under pressure. Yeah, I don't think that works. So if I push here, knight takes. So do I take the knight first? Is that maybe the point? I think that's probably the point. And then push the pawn. So if the rook were to take, then it's not threatening anything after. The problem is the knight. If I push this pawn right now to cut off the queen's vision of the rook, the knight can take, and then it can continue attacking with check. And I don't like that. Because if that happens, so say I go here, knight here, try to take the bishop. The queen isn't immediately looking at my rook because the knight's in the way, but the knight can take the knight and discover attack my rook. So that looks bad. So I think I have to get rid of this knight first, then push the pawn. And then the rook can take, but the rook doesn't carry the same threat of a check, so I have time to take the bishop. And there's no like discovered attack. That looks good, I think. Take the knight. Push the pawn. Queen moves, and now I take the bishop. Interesting puzzle. Interesting puzzle. Really took like thinking through all of that. That hanging bishop was sort of the crux of the entire thing. So the first thing you have to see is why can't I take this hanging bishop? And the reason why is because the pawn is pinned to the rook, right? And then it's how can I cut off the queen's vision of the rook was my thought process to allow me to take this pawn. Well, I could try to do something with the bishop, which would protect my rook, but there's nothing there. And I could go here, but I would just lose a bishop. Otherwise, I can push this pawn, which is protected by my knight, and that looks pretty good. But there are 3 pieces looking at that square, and one of the pieces is very threatening. So if I push here, knight takes, and I try to take the bishop, the knight takes my knight with check. And then I have to do something about that check, probably take the knight back, but then the queen can take my rook at the end of the line. So the key is to take this knight that is causing that problem at the very beginning. So when I take the knight, white's got to do something about that. I mean, the bishop could move and save itself, but then I would just win a piece, right? So we trade pieces there, and now that this knight is gone, I can push this piece, push this pawn, and the queen's got to move out of the way. If the rook takes, I can just take with my knight and win an exchange. Probably, or no, probably the better move would be to just take the bishop, but instead the queen moves out of the way, and now I can take the bishop without penalty, and that's the puzzle. Thanks for watching. Catch you later.